Another Resolv module that we can look at today is the Resolv Container Management module. And the Resolv Container Management module is used for importers, typically that are bringing in material by sea freight, but it can be used for air freight, by rail, by truck as well. And the idea is to be able to allow us to manage our imports, multiple purchase orders. They can be coming from different suppliers, one or multiple suppliers, but be able to manage our imports and their status as we track them, being able to come in by their logical shipping unit as opposed to the individual containers. So we'll take a look at a container shipment. And here's an example of a container shipment that's coming in. Now, this particular case, we're using it to represent a boat that's coming in from China. So we actually had multiple purchase orders and multiple vendors that were associated with it. We are consolidating them all through a freight forwarder or broker. But you don't have to have that. And again, what this is going to allow us to do is to be able to link these purchase orders together into shipping and then identify the different containers that are coming in. So for instance, those 2 purchase orders or 4 purchase orders who are coming in on 2 different containers. And so again, we can see a 20-foot and a 40-foot high cubed container, and we know exactly what has been placed into each container, and we can track the status. Now, as we go through this, you can look at it from the container view, so I can see by container what is in each container, or I can look at it from the item view, where I'm able to see this item, the flow meter, and I'm able to see the different containers that the product is located in, so you can switch back and forth between the 2 different views. We also have the ability to build up the landed costs prior to receiving the goods, so you don't have to wait for the goods receipt PO to be added inside of SAP Business One. You actually have the ability to start capturing your landed costs as you know them or as they occur. You can have predefined templates as well that you can use, and it will actually build up those costs so that if I'm looking at it, I can see what the expected landed costs of those units are going to be and the breakdown even before we've received it. This can be useful for being able to predict pricing for pre-selling inventory that's on the water or anything else along those lines. Now, as we're looking at this, you'll also be able to see the container status from the purchase order. So from a purchase order, you can actually right-click and be able to go into View Container Details. And in the container details, be able to see the actual current shipment status of the line. Now, keeping in mind, in this particular case, this line happened to all be on one container, but we could also have a purchase order line that is split up into multiple shipments. So if we placed a blanket order, or if we just, for whatever reason, had a supplier that wasn't able to fulfill a purchase order in full in one shipment, we might have multiple vessels that it's coming on that are shipping and sailing on different days, in which case we'd be able to see that breakdown as well as what the estimated and actual ship dates are going to be, throughout this process. Now, what's nice about the way that container management works is that when you have this container, any changes that are made in terms of the receiving date or anything else along those lines, the system has the ability to go back and update the purchase orders as well. So you only have to make the change once, and it will go back and update all of the impacted purchase orders. Keeping in mind that this will also update SAP's available to promise, and if you're using the advanced allocations module, which comes with the order reservations, you can also have a situation where any linked sales orders will also be updated. So if a container is delayed because it's being held at the port, we're updating it here. It's automatically updating all the impacted rows at the purchase order row level, and that can actually go back and update all of the sales orders, and then we can use the data messenger, for example, to notify our customers that there's been a delay. So all of those ideas will be able to stack together. As you are working on a container, you also have the ability to pack the items and to be able to see the percentages of what's full. So this particular container has already been packed in full, but if we had picked a container that was still waiting to be packed, it will automatically tell us what percentage is full based on volume or weight, and that allows us to be able to plan a container. So 2 different ways this is used is one case we're being we're being reported to with what's been shipped by our suppliers, and we're recording that in so we can manage it. And the other is where we're actually trying to plan a container to tell our vendors or suppliers overseas what we want to be able to do. Another thing that we commonly see with importers is that they'll gather a whole series of documents that are associated with it, perform invoices, things that need to be sent with a driver to go pick up material at the port, all kinds of different things. So you have the ability to, again, attach all of your different documents here, and then we can actually display or print them directly from the screen, as well as being able to keep a Bible of notes. So as you can see in here, this is all just gibberish, but the idea is that you have the ability to keep track of multiple different notes that you would want to keep, so that everybody has visibility into what's going on, and you don't have to go into a manila folder or email or some kind of tickler system to be able to find what's happening. Now, as we look at the different container reports, it will help illuminate some of the different container statuses. So I can actually come in here and look at planned shipments. These are shipments that have not yet left the origin port. You can see shipped. These are essentially the on water shipments. You can have at ports. They've arrived at their destination, but they haven't cleared customs. Cleared customs, received by warehouse, a completed container, as well as a voided container. So you have the ability to come in here and run reports by any or all these different statuses. And then if we take a look at the reports, here you can see I'm getting a breakdown by item of what's happening on the container. And then for any of these different containers, I can actually drill into the detail to, again, be able to view all the different POs that are happening and what the value is and so on and so forth at the different statuses. The reports are popular because you have the ability to look at them by item, by vendor, by customer, even for linked orders, customer tracking number. But a popular one is this inventory in transit. The inventory in transit is popular because it allows us to be able to work with, you can either use pre-build only, which means we've taken possession of the inventory while it's on the water, or we can look at all containers. And even though it's on the water, we may still have a situation where we had to create a invoice, perform an invoice, or even pay the invoice using an AP reserve invoice before we receive the good. So therefore, if your terms are such that you're taking possession when it arrives at the port, you'll be able to keep track of those kinds of imports and then be able to see exactly what your different products are and their current reserve invoices and what their value is. So this is essentially the accounting report that you would use to be able to see the detailed backup of all the products that you may have paid for or taken ownership of, even though you haven't actually physically received them yet. Of course, you can also run this report for everything, where I have the ability to look at all different containers, in which case the ones that are not pre-built will be included as well. And this is essentially the accounting value of everything that's in transit. So again, you can see the quantity, the unit price, the landed cost, as well as the current status for all the different containers. Another great feature of the container is the ability to actually physically receive in the goods by the container unit and not having to split your container back up into the individual purchase orders or even into the different vendors. So we will automatically create goods receipt PO documents from the container. And there are two different ways that you'll be able to receive your containers. One we'll show later as we go through the warehouse management system, where you can actually use your WMS scanners to be able to receive the containers in. Again, what's nice about that is you open up the physical container and you just start unloading products, and you are able to scan them in any order that they come from, regardless of the vendor, and then be able to have that to go through. Or if you're not using our warehouse management system, you do also have the ability to receive the container directly from the container entry processing screen. And so with that, you'll be able to come in and see your different container. And you'll see we have different statuses here. So I've already marked these all as finished. But if I do drill into an individual container, you can see the different statuses where we know whether it's opened, if it's been scanned, if it's been finished, or it's been received. So in this particular case, we're going to actually receive both containers at the same time, but you do have the ability to, like for instance, if one of the containers was held at customs or wasn't available on a rail yard and they were coming in on different days, you do have the ability to mark a status per container. So if, for instance, I could receive just container 41, leaving container 42 open. But once you've finished which ones you want to be able to receive, again, if they're serialized, we can import the serial numbers, or you can scan the serial numbers during the WMS receiving. But at this point, I'll just come in here and do receive, and then that is going to update the date that we've actually received everything in, as well as to generate the goods receipt PO. So in just a moment, you'll see it's actually generating the goods receipt PO here for the first vendor. And then because this is a multi-vendor document, we're going to get a second goods receipt PO as well. Once the container is completed, you'll be able to come in and see the received quantity. So again, we can see the last goods receipt PO that was created, or if we scroll all the way over, and again, of course, you can use form settings to move this wherever you want, you can actually see the individual goods receipt POs that were created per document. These goods receipt POs, if there was more than one, you could actually double click to be able to get into a list like this. And if, of course, if there's only one, you can use the drill down arrow directly from here, or we could actually drill into each of the different documents as well. And then what's nice is you'll notice the landed cost button is now updated as well. So if we have landed costs that we've built up, again, we talked about being able to use a predefined template. So I'll show an example of that here, where we're going to bring in some landed costs from a template, and we can change this. What will wind up happening now is that we're able to take these landed costs. So I can just come in and change this to, let's say, $2,500, or something else along those lines, and then be able to press the button here for the landed cost, and it's going to ask me which vendor do I want to allocate to, and I'm going to choose my Far East Imports. And you'll notice that it's going to automatically bring up the landed cost screen, select the appropriate goods receipt POs, and then allocate the portion of the costs that were relating to those vendors to this landed cost automatically. So I didn't need to calculate this amount. That was done for me completely automatic. Again, you can see here are the quantities that we received in from the container based off of the goods receipt PO that was automatically created. And then you just basically add, and then it will update the landed cost inside of SAP Business One for us based off of the automatic allocation against the container. And then if I wanted to repeat the process for the second vendor, you can come in here and do that as well for Griffin Distribution, and you'll see it's going to automatically bring in the remaining balance of those costs. So you can see the costs here are now different, and it's summing up to the balance that we did not bring in. That was automatically added, and then again, you can just press add to accept the landed costs. Of course, from here, you can continue to keep the container open in case there's additional landed costs that you want to be able to work with, or I can actually just come in and change the status to complete and to be able to indicate that this particular container is done. So again, that's just, to be able to keep, good records for whether or not we have anything outstanding that we're waiting for in terms of additional products that are coming in from different containers, or if we have additional costs that we're expecting and want to be able to add additional landed costs throughout the process.